Okay, so that was it. We've looked at the PS1, the PS2, the PS3. I'm one of the few people in the office who, it's kind of depressing for me, but I'm old enough that I was actually a fully functioning adult throughout the entire run of the PlayStation generation. But now that we've got the nostalgia trip up and out of the way, we are leading into the big debut of the PlayStation 4, and there's a lot to be excited about. I'm one of the people in the office that has actually managed to have some hands-on time with both the PS4 and the Xbox One, and this is going to be, once again, like the big clash. It's going to be the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 going head to head, which is not actually something that is it's like happened in previous generations. They're actually only launching a couple of weeks apart. We've got the PlayStation 4 today, and then on the 22nd, which is not that much further away, we've got the Xbox One. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how things play out. The generation now is very, very different from what we've had in the past. There have been a lot of big changes. There's been the rise of online gaming. There's also been the rise of portable gaming. It's like where people are messing around with their tablets and their smartphones and stuff like that. We've also had the rise of casual gaming with what we saw with the Wii, and to a much lesser extent the Wii U. But basically, the start of Generation 7, which was PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, is very, very different from what we've got now in this final countdown to the more or less the official start of Generation 8, once there's more than one console on the scene, which is what we're going to see with the PlayStation 4. So, now that we're moving into the launch of the PlayStation 4, what can we talk about? Like I said, I've had time to mess around with both of them. In a weird sort of way, it's actually a lot easier for me to talk about what's happening with the PS4 than it is for the Xbox One, because up until now, at least in Canada, access to the Xbox One has been kind of limited. I've had a chance to sit down and play with the games on the Xbox One, but I haven't actually been allowed to mess around with the Xbox One itself very much. I suspect that has mostly to do with the fact that the Xbox One units that they were running and allowing journalists to access were probably not the most up-to-date units when it comes to firmware, and so therefore it was not working the way that they would like people to see, especially if they're going to be reporting this to other people. PS4 in that regard actually seemed to be in better shape. They let me sit down, they let me play the games, but they also let me mess around with the system to my heart's content. Unfortunately, I cannot at this time give you a complete report on how the PS4 OS works, because that was an older firmware. It was not the 1.5 firmware update that's available at launch. So while the PS4 worked and they let me mess around with it, I could not actually use a lot of the online functionality because it simply wasn't there in the firmware that I was playing with. However, what I can tell you is that at least even before any firmware updates, the PS4 OS is buttery smooth. It actually did work. I could jump around in the menu, I could jump over to different options, everything was very fast, it was very responsive, and even though I really don't know how the social networking stuff is going to work, I did see that I had options for sharing the video, for recording the video, for jumping into other games, for doing installs, it's like all that good stuff, and it was intact. It was working. The games themselves, okay, now I can talk about both versions. There's obviously the issue of what some people on the internet are referring to as resolution gates. So that's actually interesting to me, because it means that there's sort of a reversal of positions here. It's like the PS4 is now in much better shape, at least for now, when it comes to third-party games than the Xbox One is, and that's because with the Xbox One there are still some technical hurdles. The third-party developers need to get to grips with the unique architecture of that system, and that's giving them a little bit of trouble at the start. This may change as both systems become a little more familiar to the developers, but for right now, it looks like if you want the best performing third-party software, the PS4 is edging the Xbox One out just a little bit. We're seeing this in Call of Duty, we're seeing this in Battlefield 4. We're probably also going to see it in a lot of the EA Sports games. But I've blathered on for like way too long now. It's like the countdown is almost done. We're ready to go and see what Sony is going to have in store for us for the rest of the year. So here it is, PlayStation 4 debut. And you're going to be watching the reactions from the rest of us right here on CGM. See you guys later.